Hello guys, gals, non-binary pals, and waterfowls. It's me, Big Mike, and welcome to another episode of Big Mike's Big Universe. In this episode, we're back to normal. Sort of. So I normally cover at least 2 news stories here, but in this video, we'll be just covering 1. The reasoning behind this is that this video and my latest video were originally conceived as one, but then, for better or for worse, I ultimately decided against pairing a current news story with one that is timeless. If you haven't seen my most recent video, UAPs and Nuclear Sites, An Illustrated History, you don't need to have seen it to understand this story, but it will give a bit of context as to why a journalist would be interested in this situation. And today's story is also going to be different, as for the first time we will not be looking at an American current news story, but a Canadian one. And now on to the news story I wanted to discuss with you all. Now, Daniel Otis is a Canadian journalist and a freelance reporter. Over the course of his career, he has done work for the CTV and Vice News. One of the areas he is interested in is UAPs. And in attempting to cover this from a Canadian perspective, over the course of his career, he has sought documents from the Canadian military, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and NORAD, among others. And these entities have a track record of providing them when asked. And while these documents are more often than not partially redacted, they often contain enough information for him to use for his work. Some of the documents he has received as a result of such requests are logbooks of radio control talking to NORAD to try to identify objects in the air, as well as documents that detail UAP-related briefings and cases. In regards to this situation, Otis told the Canadian Constitutional Foundation, "For more than 2 years, I've used Freedom of Information requests to uncover case files, procedures, and briefing material about unidentified objects and lights in Canadian airspace. While this might seem outlandish at first, I have obtained thousands of pages of relevant material, including 70 years of reports from Canadian pilots, soldiers, and police officers." Now, no matter where you stand on the UAP issue, Daniel's work is invaluable. It's invaluable because it gives us insight into how governments handle and respond to UAP issues. At some point, he received a tip related to a UFO sighting near the Ontario nuclear power plant. In his interview with Canadian Justice, he mentions he was told that workers there were regularly seeing things they could not account for. After receiving the tip, Otis made a request for all records relating to UAPs or UFO sightings around the plant from 1959 until 2000. For those wondering how he could do this, in Canada they have something similar to the Freedom of Information Act, called the Access to Information Act. The Access to Information Act gives every Canadian citizen, permanent resident, individual or corporation in Canada the right to request access to records that are under the control of the federal government's institutions. Regardless of their format, after receiving his request, the Ontario Power Generation refused to fulfill his request for documents, while acknowledging such documents do exist. They did so at first by citing an exemption in the Access to Information Act. Now, this exemption says that records shall not be disclosed if disclosure could reasonably be expected to seriously threaten the safety or health of an individual. Otis believed this goes against both the Access to Information Act and the Privacy Protection Act. As such, after this, Otis attempted to appeal the decision to Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner, at which point the OPG raised a dozen other legally dubious reasons that it cannot provide the redacted records. These reasons include the Constitutional Division of Powers and the Federal Nuclear Safety and Control Act. So to kind of get a better idea of what's going on here, it might help for us to step back for a moment and to make a comparison with how the OPG handled this situation and with how the New Brunswick nuclear facility, another nuclear facility in which Otis made a request for, handled the situation. Now, in an interview with Canadian Justice, he said he also filed an almost identical request with the New Brunswick nuclear facility and got very different results. While this one too was initially denied on the same original grounds that the OPG did in denying their initial request, unlike the OPG, the New Brunswick nuclear facility, after an appeal, did give him the documents he requested. Otis has not taken this lying down either. He's urging Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner to order and oversee the release of redacted records in this case. Additionally, he has retained the Canadian Constitution Foundation to assist with his appeal to Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner. Otis remarked on this situation saying, Ontario Power Generation, a multi-billion-dollar provincial crown corporation, has put the weight of their legal team into fighting my request. By simply redacting and releasing records, we could achieve a reasonable outcome that protects sensitive personal and security-related information while providing important data that researchers and the public can use to unravel the enduring mystery of sightings like these. Otis's Canadian Constitutional Foundation counsel, Josh Dehas, stated, Ontario's Freedom of Information law is clear that the public has a right to access information from public institutions, and exemptions must be limited and specific. Mr. Otis has been more than reasonable in his request. He simply wants those parts of the documents that are not exempt from disclosure so that he can do his job and inform the public about the UFOs that have been reported at or near OPG's nuclear plants. And if this feels like a cliffhanger to you, there's a very good reason for that. And that reason is that this is still very much an ongoing story, and one I'm going to continue to monitor as it progresses. Here are my thoughts on this situation. I believe what Daniel Otis is doing needs to be done. There exists a relationship of some sort between UAPs and nuclear sites. What that relationship is exactly is yet to be known, and may perhaps never be understood. However, if we ever hope to get to the bottom of this, we need all the data we can get. Now, it is true that there is an alternate source of information. There is an alternate source of data we could use. And that is a Canadian UFO survey by Chris Rutkowski. Now, in an interview with Debrief, Chris Rutkowski states, in his Canadian UFO survey, there are close to 25,000 reports from across 3 decades. He explains, if we search the database for a specific location, such as Pickering, where a nuclear energy generation station is located, we get more than 50 reports. So in one sense, UAPs are definitely associated with nuclear sites. But, as we shall see, there is a huge problem with using this source. Rutkowski continues, since Pickering is near large population centers and is on an airline flight path, someone in southern Ontario who sees a UAP in the direction of Pickering might only see a light in the general area, not really directly over the nuclear site. So it might also be that UAPs are only incidentally associated with nuclear sites. This is why data from the plants themselves would be much more useful. It's much more specific. Fortunately, there seems to be only one plant that doesn't want to give up the goods. And we could talk about the why. Could it be a cover-up? Maybe. Governments cover stuff up all the time. And I have absolutely no problem believing that. However, I do have to say in general, from what little I know, the Canadian government seems much more willing to share information than the US government has been. Also, it may have nothing to do with the government. It could be just a person or people in charge of the OPG. Maybe there's some type of misconduct going on there, and the release of such information could expose it. It could be whoever's in charge there is on some sort of power trip, or is just an all-around hard ass. Or it could be someone there just has a bone to pick with Mr. Otis. Perhaps either somebody has a personal vendetta against him, or maybe he published something previously that angered them. However, all of this is just pure speculation, and we can only guess. But that's really all I have here. Now, I just want to say the best of luck to Mr. Otis. I think you're fighting a noble fight, and I look forward to following this. I look forward to seeing how this turns out. And with the Canadian Constitution Foundation in your corner, I have a great deal of faith that this is going to come out in your favor. But please keep going, and I look forward to seeing the results of this. And with that, we'll call it here, fam. So time for another unplanned, unscripted Inslate, baby. And I don't know, there's something I find to be kind of cathartic about these. So I do kind of enjoy this. So next video, I'm not sure what it's going to be about. When I started to record this, I just saw that the Air Force had released the details about the 2023 UAP sighting at Eglin Air Force Base that was brought to light by Representative Gates. There's also another AI story I'm looking at. And also I have a couple ideas for some more media related videos, like Beavis and Butthead, or recently I've seen a show that I really kind of like, called Rock, Paper, Scissors. It gives me ATHF vibes. And there's also some gaming content I really want to make as well. So what will my next video be about? Who knows? Not even Big Mike knows, but I just know there will be a next video. And so to quit my rambling, I just want to give a special thanks to Fran, who does a wonderful job doing my art. She's coming back to Twitter soon, so please be sure to give her a follow, and please be sure to hit her up for all of your art needs. I promise you, fam, you will not be disappointed. I absolutely love her work. And not only is her work good, but she's also a really cool person to work with, too. Also, I want to give a special thanks to all my friends on Twitter. I wouldn't be here without you all. And lastly, I want to give a special thanks to all of you for watching. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and if you enjoyed my content, please subscribe and turn your notifications on. And also, I would love to hear from you, fam. Please leave me a comment down below. Until next time, fam, remember, just be yourself and you'll be awesome. Peace out!